So I want to talk about different cases for the phase. So the problem that we ran into repeatedly is we want to find a certain form for our answers to a differential equation. That is, I wanted C cosine Wt minus alpha to be A cosine Wt plus B sine of Wt, right? And this turned out to just boil down to C cosine of alpha is A and C sine of alpha is B. And our C squared is A squared plus B squared because sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. And we let C be the square root of A squared plus B squared, which is going to be positive, right? And then if I take this over this, C sine of alpha over C cosine of alpha is B over A, but these C's cancel, so this becomes tangent of alpha is B over A. Now here's a very important point. This does not mean alpha is the arctangent of B over A. It's going to depend on the case. So if A is positive and B is positive, then alpha is the arctangent of B over A. But there are other cases. I want to do some examples of the other cases, okay? Well, maybe we'll do an example of this first. Let's say, so we'll call this case 1 here. So this will be my case. A is positive, and B is positive. So maybe I have C cosine alpha is, say, 3, and C sine alpha is 4. So C is the square root 3 squared plus 4 squared is 5. That's why I chose it. So I have cosine of alpha is going to be 3/5, and the sine of alpha is going to be 4/5. Right? And I think about my unit circle. So I have my x and y. So I'm going to have right here, this is a point 3/5, 4/5, and this is my alpha. And I do have alpha is the arctangent. Well, 4/5 over that is going to be 4/3, right? Because the arctangent gives me an angle that has tangent 4/3, but that angle is between negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. For here, it works. So this is a case that I've done in a previous video. But let's say we have the case where A is less than 0 and maybe B is bigger than 0. So maybe my C cosine alpha is -3 and C sine alpha is +4. So again, I get C is 5, and now I have the cosine of alpha is -3/5, and the sine of alpha is 4/5. So again, I think about my unit circle, but now I have this point here, so -3/5, comma 4/5. So this is my alpha right there. But this arctangent, so I know my tangent of alpha is going to be -4/3. Alpha here, though, is not the arctangent of -4/3. The arctangent of -4/3 is right here. So this is the arc tangent of negative 4/3. Because the arctangent gives you an angle between negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2, it's obvious that alpha here is actually between pi over 2 and pi. So that's not going to work. But how can I get alpha? Well, this whole angle from here to here on the line is pi. So my alpha is going to be pi plus arctangent of negative 4/3. Say if you had, if you just use arctangent of 4/3 for alpha, you're going to get a 3 here and a negative 4. It's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. So that's that case, okay? Then I have the case where a is less than 0 and b is less than 0. So maybe I have c cosine alpha is negative 3 and c sine alpha is negative 4. Okay, so again, c is 5. And I have my cosine of alpha is negative 3/5, and my sine of alpha is negative 4/5. So my tangent of alpha, this divided by this, the 5's cancel, the negatives cancel, I have 4/3, right? I don't know why I wrote parentheses there. If I think about the unit circle again, so I'm on the unit circle here, and now I'm over here at this point here, so negative 3/5, comma 4/5. Down there, I guess you have to look at it like that. And so my alpha here is going to be like so. So from here all the way there, that's alpha. Okay? But my arctangent here is actually going to be this angle from here to here. So this is my arc tangent of 4/3, right? In fact, it gives me a positive, this was negative here. It gives me a positive 3/5 and a positive 4/5. So arctangent here for alpha isn't going to work. It's going to give me positive answers, not these negative ones. So I'm going to take this arctangent, but then I have to go pi more. So again here, alpha is pi plus the arctangent of 4/3. So that's that case. And then I have, finally, I have the case where a is bigger than 0, b is less than 0. Okay? So maybe I have c cosine of alpha is 3, and maybe c sine of alpha is negative 4. Okay. Again, we have c is 5, so we get cosine of alpha is 3/5, sine of alpha is negative 4/5. Right. So I think about my unit circle here. Again, with the cosine and the sine, but now I have this. I have this point here. Here's my 3/5, here's my negative 4/5. Okay? And if we want alpha, if I require alpha here to be between 0 and 2 pi, my arctangent gives me this negative answer here. So my tangent of alpha here is negative 4/3. This is a negative angle. This alpha will give me the right answer, the right point, but is not going to satisfy this here because the arctangent of this negative number is going to be a negative angle here. So between 0 and negative pi over 2. So if I want to go from here all the way around there, my alpha is going to be 2 pi plus the arctangent of negative 4/3. Okay, so that's supposed to be a pi there. So that's these different cases. If they're both positive, if they're both negative, if one is positive, the other negative, or vice versa. And you have to think about these for these problems with the phase. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you.